At exactly 6 a.m. on her wedding day, my sister's phone started ringing with 300 guests asking why they just got cancellation texts. She still doesn't know I'm the one who sent her fiancé those Vegas photos. But her reaction when she finds out will shock you. Well, let me tell you how my own sister destroyed our relationship in one phone call. My name is Abigail and I'm 28 years old. 3 days before what was supposed to be the most beautiful wedding of the year, my phone rang at 11 p.m. "Abigail, we need to talk," my sister Nia said, her voice cold as ice. I could hear music and laughter in the background. She was at her final dress-fitting party. "What's wrong, girl? You sound stressed," I said, genuinely concerned. I'd been her maid of honor for 8 months, planning every detail of her dream wedding to David. "Look, I've been thinking about the photos and the aesthetic I'm going for," she started, and my stomach dropped. "You know how important this Instagram content is for my influencer brand. I need everything to be perfect." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "Nia, what are you trying to say?" "I'm uninviting you from the wedding party. Actually, from the wedding entirely." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. You're too fat and ugly to be in my perfect photos. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is." I sat there in stunned silence, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. 8 months of planning. $2,000 spent on my custom maid of honor dress. The bachelorette party I'd organized and paid for in Vegas just 2 weeks ago. "Nia, you can't be serious," I whispered, tears already streaming down my face. "I already asked Madison to replace you. She knows how to pose and she's got that model look I need." "Sorry, sis." The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in complete disbelief. The next morning brought a flood of apologetic texts from our cousins and aunts. Apparently, Nia had called a family meeting the night before to explain why I was suddenly out of the wedding. She told everyone I was ruining the aesthetic and would make her photos look bad. "She said you'd understand because you've always been the bigger sister," my cousin Jasmine texted. "Girl, we are not okay with this." But what destroyed me wasn't just Nia's cruelty. It was discovering that our parents had agreed with her decision. Mom called around noon, her voice shaky but resolute. "Baby, you know how much this wedding means to Nia's career. Maybe it's for the best if you just attend as a regular guest," she said, and I could hear the guilt in her voice. "So you're choosing her Instagram followers over your own daughter's feelings?" I asked, my voice hollow with hurt. "It's not about choosing sides, Abigail. It's about being practical. You know how the internet can be about appearances." I hung up and stared at my custom dress hanging in the closet. A beautiful emerald green that had taken 3 fittings to get perfect. $2,000 of my hard-earned money as a nurse, gone. But the money wasn't what hurt. It was the betrayal from the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. That afternoon, Madison posted on Instagram, "So blessed to be stepping in as maid of honor for my beautiful bestie Nia. Can't wait to make magic happen." The post had a selfie of them together, Madison's size 2 figure next to Nia's equally tiny frame. The comments were full of people praising how perfect they looked together. I screenshot everything, a plan already forming in my mind. Sitting in my apartment, surrounded by wedding planning materials I'd never use, memories of Vegas came flooding back. Something had felt off about that bachelorette trip, but I'd pushed my suspicions down, focused on making sure Nia had the perfect send-off. Now, with fresh eyes and a broken heart, I started scrolling through my phone photos from that weekend. There it was, photo after photo of Nia getting increasingly cozy with Charles, David's best man and best friend since college. At the first club, I'd caught them whispering intimately by the bar while the rest of us danced. Just planning bachelor party details, Nia had laughed when I asked. But in the photo, Charles's hand was definitely on her lower back, and she was leaning into him like they were sharing secrets. The second night got worse. I found a video I'd taken of our group dancing, but in the background, clear as day, Nia and Charles were making out against the wall. Her "future Mrs. Robinson" sash was still across her chest while she had her tongue down her fiancé's best friend's throat. But the real evidence was in my text message screenshots. Nia had been drunk texting our cousin group chat all weekend. "Y'all, Charles is so much more exciting than David. Like, David's sweet, but he's gonna be such a boring husband. I know I shouldn't, but Charles just gets me, you know? David would never take risks like this. Getting one last wild night before I'm stuck with predictable David forever. What happens in Vegas, right?" I'd screenshot those messages thinking they were just pre-wedding jitters. Now they look like something much more damning. My phone buzzed with another text from Madison. Hope you understand this isn't personal, hun. Just business. That's when I made my decision. I spent the entire night organizing everything into a folder on my phone labeled Wedding Evidence. 3 months of suspicious behavior suddenly made perfect sense when viewed through this new lens. The secret phone calls Nia would take on the balcony during family dinners, claiming it was wedding vendor stuff. The way she'd light up whenever Charles's name was mentioned. How she'd insisted Charles give the speech at the rehearsal dinner instead of David's brother, saying he was just better with words. I found more photos buried in my gallery. Nia and Charles at her birthday party last month, standing way too close while David was in the bathroom. Nia and Charles sharing what looked like an intimate conversation at David's surprise party, their heads bent together while everyone else watched the game. Then there were the receipts. Nia had used my credit card for emergency wedding expenses in Vegas. Except when I looked at the charges, they were for 2 separate hotel rooms on the same floor. One under her name, one under Charles's. Both charged to my card because she'd claimed she forgot her wallet. The timeline was damning. Every time David worked late shifts at the hospital, he's an ER resident, Nia would mysteriously have wedding planning meetings that ran until midnight. Charles just happened to be her advisor, since he'd been through a wedding himself. But the smoking gun was a voice message she'd accidentally sent to our family group chat instead of Charles. Baby, I can't wait until after this whole wedding charade is over and we can stop pretending. David's so clueless it's actually kind of sad. She deleted it within minutes, but I'd already screenshot the notification. Looking at David's Instagram, full of loving posts about his perfect bride and dream wedding, I felt sick to my stomach. He deserved to know the truth. At 3 a.m, I sat staring at David's contact information in my phone. We'd always gotten along well. He was kind, hardworking, and genuinely loved my sister. Or at least he loved the version of her he thought he knew. Part of me wanted to let it play out. Let Nia have her perfect Instagram wedding and deal with the consequences later. After all, she'd made her choice about what mattered most to her, appearances over family loyalty. But then I thought about David working 16-hour shifts at the hospital to pay for this $50,000 wedding. He'd taken out a loan to afford the venue Nia insisted on. His parents had flown in from across the country. 300 guests had cleared their schedules. My phone buzzed with a text from David himself. Hey Abigail, I heard about the bridesmaid situation. I'm really sorry. I had no idea Nia was going to do that. You've been like a sister to me too, and I want you to know you're still family regardless. That message broke my heart even more. This man was defending me to my own sister, showing me more loyalty in one text than my blood family had shown in 28 years. I opened my laptop and started typing an email. Then I deleted it. Started again. Deleted again. How do you tell someone their entire relationship is a lie? How do you destroy someone's world even when they need to know the truth? My phone lit up with another notification. Nia had posted more wedding prep photos with Madison. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to make tough decisions to protect your special day. So grateful for real friends who understand the vision." The comments were full of support, people praising her for knowing her worth and protecting her brand. That's when I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. I crafted the email carefully, making sure every word was measured and respectful. David deserved the truth, but he also deserved to receive it with dignity. David, I need to share something with you that breaks my heart to write. As someone who cares about you and considers you family, I can't let you walk into tomorrow without knowing what I discovered. I attached everything. The photos of Nia and Charles kissing in 3 different Vegas clubs. Screenshots of her text messages bragging about her last wild night. The voice message about the wedding charade. Hotel receipts showing they'd stayed in connected rooms that I'd unknowingly paid for. I know this will hurt and I'm sorry to be the messenger. But you deserve a partner who chooses you completely, not someone who sees marriage as a performance for social media. You are worth so much more than this. I hit send at 4:47 a.m., then immediately turned off my phone. I couldn't handle watching the digital explosion that was about to happen. Instead, I made myself coffee and sat on my balcony watching the sun rise over the city. Tomorrow was supposed to be Nia's perfect day. By now it was today, her wedding day. In a few hours, 300 people would be getting dressed in their finest clothes, preparing to celebrate love and commitment. Except the bride was a fraud and the groom was about to find out. I thought about all the hours I'd spent planning this wedding. The vendor calls, the dress fittings, the bridal shower I'd organized. The late nights addressing invitations and making centerpieces. The thousands of dollars I'd spent trying to make my sister's dreams come true. And she'd thrown me away like garbage because I wasn't pretty enough for her photos. My phone had been buzzing nonstop from my nightstand. I wasn't ready to face whatever chaos I'd unleashed. But I knew I'd done the right thing. When I finally turned my phone back on at 9 a.m., I had 67 missed calls and over 200 text messages. My heart pounded as I scrolled through them, watching the timeline of destruction unfold. David had responded to my email at 6:15 a.m. "Thank you for telling me the truth. I'm calling off the wedding." By 6:30 a.m. the wedding party group chat was exploding. Charles had apparently confessed everything when David confronted him with the evidence. The messages were frantic. "What is happening? Bridesmaid Sarah. David just called and said the wedding's off. Best man Tyler. Nia is losing her mind right now. Cousin Jasmine." The cancellation text had gone out to all 300 guests at exactly 7 a.m. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the wedding of Nia Robinson and David Martinez has been cancelled. We apologize for any inconvenience. But it was the voice messages from Nia that painted the real picture of the chaos. She'd left me 12 increasingly hysterical messages between 6:30 and 8 a.m. "How could you do this to me? My entire life is ruined. Do you know how much money I've lost? 300 people think I'm a cheater. I'll never forgive you for this." The final message was just sobbing, raw, broken sobbing that went on for 3 full minutes. My mom had called 17 times. My dad left one simple text, "What have you done?" But there were other messages too. Messages from cousins and aunts saying they were proud of me for standing up for David. Messages from David's family thanking me for my courage. Even a few from Nia's friends who admitted they'd suspected something was off. The most surprising text came from our grandmother. "Baby girl, you did the right thing. That boy deserved the truth." I was still processing everything when my doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Nia standing there in her wedding robe, mascara streaked down her face, clutching her phone like a weapon. Behind her stood Madison and 2 of her other bridesmaids, all looking uncomfortable. "You destroyed my life." Nia screamed the moment she saw me. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I told the truth," I said calmly, though my hands were shaking. "Something you clearly had no intention of doing. It was just cold feet. Just pre-wedding jitters. Everyone gets them." She was pacing on my doorstep like a caged animal. "Charles meant nothing. The hotel receipts and 3 separate makeout sessions say otherwise," I replied. "Not to mention your voice message about the wedding charade." Madison stepped forward. "Look, maybe we can all calm down and figure out how to fix this. The venue, the vendors. Surely David will listen to reason." I looked at Madison with complete disgust. "You mean the same David you helped humiliate by taking my place because I wasn't pretty enough for photos? That David. This isn't about your feelings." Nia shrieked. "This is about my wedding, my future, my career. Do you know how many Instagram followers I'm going to lose? How many brand deals I'll lose? My entire influencer business is built around being the perfect bride. Maybe you should have thought about that before cheating on your fiancé," I said, stepping back to close the door. "I called you fat and ugly one time," she screamed. "And you destroyed my entire life over it." I paused, door half closed. "You didn't call me fat and ugly, Nia. You threw away 28 years of sisterhood because I didn't fit your aesthetic. You chose Instagram over family. You chose lies over loyalty. And when David finds out who you really are, you destroy his life and blame me for telling the truth." "Please," she sobbed. "Please call David. Tell him you lied. Tell him you made it all up because you were jealous." I closed the door and turned the lock. Over the next few hours, the full scope of the disaster became clear through a steady stream of updates from family and friends. The venue refused to refund the $50,000 deposit, citing the 24-hour cancellation policy. The catering company, florists, photographers, and DJ all kept their deposits too. Nia had spent the morning calling vendors, begging them to postpone rather than cancel, promising she could fix everything. But word travels fast in the wedding industry, and several vendors posted on social media about the cheating bride drama that had cost them a day's work. David, meanwhile, was handling everything with class that made my heart ache for him. His family posted a simple statement on Facebook. "We're grateful for everyone's support during this difficult time. David is surrounded by love and will be taking some time to heal." He'd blocked Nia on all social media, but mutual friends reported that he'd moved out of their shared apartment within hours, taking only what he'd brought into the relationship. He'd even left behind the expensive watch Nia had given him for Christmas. A watch I now realized she'd probably bought with money meant for their shared savings. The most shocking update came from Charles's wife. Apparently, Charles had been married for 2 years to a woman named Jennifer who lived in another state. Jennifer had seen the wedding cancellation drama unfold on social media and connected the dots about her husband's frequent business trips to our city. She posted a scathing Facebook message. "Thank you to whoever exposed my cheating husband. I've been suspicious for months but didn't have proof. Now I'm filing for divorce and taking half of everything." So Nia hadn't just destroyed her own relationship. She'd destroyed Charles's marriage too. My phone rang again. This time it was Nia, her voice hoarse from crying. "Please," she whispered. "I'll do anything. I'll apologize publicly. I'll pay you back for the dress and the bachelorette party. Just please help me fix this." "There's nothing to fix, Nia. This is who you chose to be." 3 days after the cancelled wedding, our parents finally called for a family meeting. I drove to their house with a heavy heart, knowing this conversation would determine whether our family could ever heal from this fracture. I found Nia in the living room looking hollow and defeated. She'd lost 12 pounds in 3 days and aged years in the process. Our parents sat across from us, looking exhausted and confused. "We need to figure out how to move forward as a family," Dad began carefully. "There is no moving forward," Nia said, her voice flat. "Abigail destroyed my life over a phone call. Everything is gone. David won't take my calls. I lost $60,000. My business is ruined. I have nothing left." "You cheated on your fiancé," I said quietly. "Multiple times. With his best friend. And you bragged about it. It didn't mean anything. It meant something to David. And it meant something to Charles's wife, who's now divorcing him too." Mom cleared her throat. "Abigail, we understand you were hurt by what Nia said, but did you really have to destroy her wedding?" The question hung in the air like poison. After everything that had happened, they were still blaming me for telling the truth rather than blaming Nia for living a lie. "Let me ask you something," I said, my voice steady despite the fury building inside me. "If you found out Dad was cheating on you and his side piece called you fat and ugly while planning her wedding with your money, would you want someone to tell you the truth?" "That's different," Mom said quickly. How? How is it different?" Because. She trailed off, unable to articulate why David deserved less protection than she would want for herself. "Because I'm disposable," I said, standing up. "Because Nia's feelings matter more than mine. Because appearance matters more than character. Because lies matter more than truth." I headed for the door. "Don't you dare walk away from this family," Dad shouted. I turned back one last time. "I'm not walking away from family. I'm walking away from people who think Instagram followers are more important than integrity." A week later, I was surprised to find David sitting in the hospital cafeteria where I worked. He looked tired but determined, wearing scrubs that suggested he'd come straight from his shift. "I wanted to thank you in person," he said when I sat down across from him. "And to apologize." "You have nothing to apologize for." "I do though. I should have stood up to Nia when she uninvited you. I should have refused to have a wedding without my future sister-in-law there. I was so focused on keeping the peace that I let her treat you horribly." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment before he continued. "I've had time to think about everything and I realized there were signs I ignored. The way she talked about people, the way she prioritized image over substance. The way she treated service workers, the way she talked about her own family when you weren't around." "What do you mean?" "She used to complain about you being too involved in the wedding planning, said you were trying to steal her spotlight. She'd make comments about your weight, your job, your life choices. I thought it was just stress, but looking back, that was who she really was." He pulled out an envelope. She's been texting me from different numbers, calling my work, showing up at my apartment. She keeps saying you manipulated the evidence, that you were jealous and made everything up. David, I know it's all true. Charles confirmed every detail. But more than that, I know you. You've been nothing but kind and supportive, even when your own family treated you terribly. The fact that she can't see that says everything about who she really is. The envelope contained a check. I know you spent money on this wedding, the bachelorette party, your dress, all the planning time. This doesn't cover the emotional cost, but it's a start. I tried to hand it back, but he wouldn't take it. You saved my life, Abigail. You saved me from marrying someone who saw me as a prop in her performance. 2 weeks after the cancelled wedding, the full consequences of Nia's choices became clear. Her influencer business, built on lifestyle and relationship content, collapsed overnight. Brands dropped her sponsorships, followers abandoned her account, and the engagement ring loan she'd taken out for content creation came due with no wedding to justify the expense. She'd moved back in with our parents and was working at a retail store, her dreams of social media fame shattered. Meanwhile, David had been promoted at the hospital and was dating a fellow resident, a kind, genuine woman who cared more about his character than his Instagram potential. The irony wasn't lost on me. Nia had sacrificed our relationship for aesthetic perfection and ended up losing everything that actually mattered. I was thriving in ways I hadn't expected. Without the constant drain of Nia's criticism and manipulation, I'd started dating again, joined a hiking group, and even began a blog about self-acceptance and family boundaries. My story had resonated with hundreds of women who'd experienced similar betrayals. One afternoon, Nia showed up at my apartment again. This time she was alone, looking genuinely broken. I know you hate me, she said quietly. I don't hate you. I'm just done allowing you to treat me poorly. I've lost everything. You chose your priorities. Instagram followers over family. Lies over truth. Appearance over character. These are the consequences of those choices. I was wrong about the wedding. I was wrong about uninviting you. I was wrong about everything. For a moment, I felt a flicker of the love I'd always had for my sister. But then I remembered all the years of subtle put-downs, the constant criticism, the way she'd made me feel small and unworthy. I accept your apology, Nia. But acceptance doesn't mean reconciliation. What does that mean? It means I forgive you for my own peace, but I'm not going back to being your emotional punching bag. She started to cry again, but this time it felt different. Not manipulative or desperate. Just sad. I don't know how to fix this. You can't fix it. You can only do better going forward. 6 months later, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. David was marrying Clara, the resident he'd met at the hospital. The ceremony would be small, intimate, focused on love rather than performance. Inside the invitation was a handwritten note. You taught me what real family looks like. Would you do me the honor of being my sister one more time? I RSVP'd yes immediately. The wedding was everything Nia's would have been pretentious about. Simple flowers, a modest venue, a focus on community and commitment rather than aesthetics. But it was beautiful in ways that mattered. The love between David and Clara was genuine, built on respect and partnership rather than performance. During his speech, David said something that stuck with me. Real love doesn't require you to be perfect. It requires you to be honest. I thought about Nia, still struggling to rebuild her life and reputation. We texted occasionally now, brief, polite exchanges that maintained connection without intimacy. She was in therapy, working on the deeper issues that had led to her destructive choices. Maybe someday we'd find our way back to each other. But I'd learned that you can't sacrifice your own worth for someone else's comfort, even when that someone is family. As I watched David and Clara dance their first dance, I felt genuinely happy for the first time in months. Not because Nia had been punished for her choices, but because truth had prevailed over performance and real love had won over fake perfection. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive behavior, even when that refusal costs you everything you thought you wanted. I'd lost a sister, but I'd found myself. And that trade, as painful as it was, had been worth making. The truth had set us all free, even if freedom looked different than any of us had expected. Some endings aren't happy, but they are honest. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just kept the peace and given in. But then I remember what they said and did and I get angry all over again. What would you have done in my situation? Did I make the right call?